Hi, my name is Hector Del Castillo, and I'm Chief Product Officer at BoldPM. And today's topic for tonight's meetup is the State of Business Intelligence and Analytics Platforms 2020. And we're going to be discussing this. Myself and also my co-organizer, Phillip Simulis, will be joining us to actually discuss this. And before we get started, let's just go ahead and do some housekeeping items. You are able to unmute and unmute yourselves. What I would recommend is that if you're in a noisy environment or you expect some disturbances during the time that we're going to meet, we normally, our meetings are about somewhere between an hour to an hour and a half. Just mute yourselves and be polite as we get started. When we're networking, I'll be asking you specifically to unmute yourselves and at least introduce yourself so that you can at least interact with each other. And that's going to be at the beginning of the program. But once we get the program started, I'm going to be asking everyone to unmute so that you can only hear myself and my co-speaker once we begin discussion. And if you encounter any audio issues, I would say refresh your browser, or you may need to leave and come back. And you're able to do so. Just use the same link that you used to join. You can use that to drop off and come back if you're having any kind of issues. And also, if you have any questions, use the chat window to submit the questions. We're going to be monitoring the chat. And the earlier you submit the questions, the better the probability that we can actually fit any questions in before we drop off. We do have a pretty full program, but we usually will have also a Q&A before the end of our session. And the earlier you type in your questions, the better. Also, we are recording tonight's session just like every time. And so we will share a link where you can view the video replay of tonight's session. For your review, you can feel free to share with anyone. And that landing page that you will have after the session also contains every single slide that we're going to be showing tonight. So at least it gives you a chance to, figure out how to get involved and learn a little bit more about business intelligence and analytics and everything else that we're going to be discussing tonight. And I want to give a special thanks and shout out. Normally, when we meet physically, we actually meet at Make offices in Tysons in McLean. And they've been a very gracious host to us for almost 3 years now. And since March of this, actually April of this year, we've gone 100% virtual. So we haven't been able to meet there, but they're still making themselves available for us. And we plan to come back at some point once it is safe to come back and do in person. And we will be announcing that with at least a couple of months in advance. Right now, based on what I'm seeing, I don't expect to necessarily be 100% to go 100% in person before the end of the year. We may do some hybrid ones towards the end of the year, but that just depends on how things go. And so we'll at least be announcing that at least 1 or 2 months in advance. So be sure to track the Meetup page, because we will usually post comments on the Meetup pages of anything that's coming up, so that we inform our members as to what to expect. I would expect that at least in the very beginning, we will be probably doing hybrid where, if some of you don't still feel safe or you're too far away to join us from wherever you're at, because you're mostly working from home and home happens to be pretty far away from McLean where we normally would meet in person, I would say that we would still do the Zoom and probably have some of the room live in person and the other participants be virtual online. Also, a special shout out to Beyond. Beyond actually provided us at the very beginning their webinar version of Zoom. And now we actually have shifted into the meetings type because it's more interactive. And the feedback we got from some of our members is that they wanted to have that level of interaction at the very beginning to actually meet each other and still be able to view each other and hear each other as we were doing introductions and networking. So we've shifted over to Zoom meetings. I think this is the second meeting that we've done this. BoldPM is my company, and we actually do product management, training, consulting, and coaching. And we work with mid-market companies that need help in transforming ideas into products. And we actually work in helping them build and grow high-performing product teams. Simtelligent, and Simtelligent is Philip's company. I'm sure he'll probably be telling us a little more once he joins us, but Simtelligent is an integrator. They actually do integration of any cloud-based and web-based mobile applications for enterprise clients when they need help in customizing or even doing some of the things that we're going to talk about, like data management, data integration, and then be able to do dashboards for reporting and viewing of information, which is the main core value proposition of anything that is analytics. So those are our special things. If you're on Twitter, use this particular hashtags and handles. Hashtag BIDC, that is our own meetup. So hashtag BIDC with hashtag meetup is what we would ask you to use share. Also use my handle at Del Castillo, or use Philip's handle, which is at Simulis. And any of these other hashtags will be nice because that's relevant to tonight's topic, hashtag business intelligence, and then hashtag business analytics. So those are the main hashtags to be using. Tonight's agenda is no different than our typical meetings. We have a few meetings, a few minutes before to actually do check-in and networking. We're actually right now doing the welcome and announcements. At some point before we get the program started, we're just going to go into some discussion, and we will allow anybody else who has joined us just recently as we get started to introduce themselves so that everybody else can meet you. And we're going to get into the program right around a few minutes after 7 and go on. But before we wrap up, we actually will leave maybe about 10 to 15 minutes for Q&A. And be sure to type in your questions if you have any, using the chat window. And also you can chime in the comments. We'll be monitoring the chat once we get started. And we'll be wrapping up maybe at around 8:15, maybe a few minutes after, depending on how many questions we have. So that's the agenda. As I mentioned, our meetup has been around for, I would say now about 6 years now. And this year we actually broke the 2,000 member mark. So we actually have been over 2,000. And even post COVID-19, we actually have been gaining more members as we have gone 100% online since April. And, we're very pleased with that. I think it kind of speaks to the quality of our program and also a lot of the things that we do. And we typically will encourage our members to provide us suggestions for any topics or any demos that you want to see in future meetups. And then we'll do our best to make sure that we invite the right people to make sure that we can bring in somebody who's an expert at whatever topic you guys are interested in, or whatever platform or platforms that you're interested in seeing a demo. And we typically would work with organizations, the platform providers, to come in and do demos. And we meet on the first Thursday of each month. And our time, it has not changed. As we have gone 100% online, it's the same timeline as before. And we kind of kept the same day of the week and the same time slot. We just shifted to a different medium to now have our meetups. Here's a schedule, and our schedule is fully announced on our meetup. You can actually see all these events in future meetups, and many of them are just placeholders because we don't have necessarily a topic or a speaker, and this is where we're waiting for you, and we kind of do like just-in-time scheduling of topics and speakers. So as we get additional people interested, then we will actually propose specific times. And right now, we typically will announce the 2021, the following year's schedule, sometime around November, because we will just want to make sure that at least everybody knows ahead of time what to expect for 2021. And probably by our November meetup, we'll be announcing the entire schedule for 2021. Right now, we have 3 remaining meetings for the remaining of this year. And of course, today is September 3rd. But after tonight, we'll have 3 more meetings before the end of the year. So let us know if you have any specific topics that you're interested in hearing about this year, or any specific platforms that you're interested in seeing a demo for. We'll do our best to invite those people to come out and join us and do either a demo or a talk or even a presentation of a case study if that's what you guys are interested in. So give us your feedback, because we always try to please our members in making sure that we invite the right people and have the right topics in mind that appeal to our members. So having said that, we're going to go into the announcement phase. And typically we talk about two different things. One is upcoming conferences or summits or any kind of event that is related to business intelligence or platforms. We also allow people to let us know whether or not they are looking to hire people that are either business analysts, data analysts, or any of those related jobs that are about looking at business intelligence and analytics for organizations. Or if you are actively looking for a new position, whether it's a contract position or W-2, speak up and let us know. So at least, if you guys know each other, or you know of any job openings in either in your company or in somebody else's company, you guys can network and at least share that information. We usually ask that, post-event that you actually share this information as a comment on tonight's Meetup page. And, if you're able to do so, you can actually add those comments on tonight's Meetup page so that everybody, all our members, can actually view that information. So having said that, as we're going into announcements, I actually would like to allow, if you're willing, to introduce yourself, everybody else who hasn't done so and has joined us as we get started. And I'm just going to pick on people that I know. So Lori, can you introduce yourself? Can you unmute yourself and introduce yourself to everyone?
Yes, hi there, everyone. I am Lori Wiggins. I'm the CEO of Beyond, and Hector and I are business partners in Beyond. It is a business consultancy, and we specialize in assisting technology and software companies, say in the $1 to $25 million revenue range, to scale, buy, or sell their companies. Good to be here.
All right. Thank you so much, Lori. And let's see, who else joined us? Christy, can you introduce yourself? You can unmute and just introduce yourself very quick. Christy, are you there? Maybe she stepped away.
I'm
Damien?
here.
Okay, go ahead, Christy, go ahead.
Hi, I just joined the group, and so I just wanted to see what these meetups were about. My name's Christy, and I currently work with SAIC, and that's it.
Great. And you're working in analytics or business intelligence?
Yes, analytics.
Perfect. All right. Welcome, and good to see new faces. So thank you for joining us. And Damien, can you introduce yourself? Can you unmute and introduce yourself?
Yes, hi. How is everyone?
Doing great.
Give me 1 second. Let me get off the video. Here we go. All right.
All right.
Hi, I'm Damien Savalas. I am currently working on some consulting and startup engagements, but I am actively looking for a full-time CFO data analytics role. And one of the things that I really enjoy about being, let me just step back. My last experience was with Clorox, and believe it or not, I left Clorox before the pandemic. So there goes some thinking there. But basically, did a lot of business valuation and analytics on how the customers interact with the operations, and so I'm trying to dive more and more into data science and making that connection between the financials and data.
Great. Are you here in the DMV area, or are you somewhere else?
No, I am. We live in Potomac, Maryland.
Okay, perfect. I wasn't really sure because I know that Clorox has people in different places, so that's why I was asking. Well, thank you for joining us and welcome.
Thank you.
And let's see who else joined us. I'm trying to see if I can see everybody on the tiles. Shay, can you introduce yourself? Can you unmute it and introduce yourself? I don't know if, I think at this point we've gone through pretty much everyone that I see on the tiles. If I haven't called on you, and you're willing to introduce yourself, go ahead. This is the time to do it. All right. Well, let's go ahead and talk about some of these conferences. Here are some things that I found. We had talked about some that you know, typically many of these type of conferences, I saw the behavior 50-50. 50% of them post COVID-19, or when they were in person and were announced, were just straight out canceled for whatever dates that were supposed to be in 2020. The other half have gone 100% virtual. And many organizations have now gotten very innovative. They actually started copying our model, and they're doing their own webinars. Sisense is one of these companies. We're going to talk about Sisense tonight. So you will learn about that. And I actually learned, as I was viewing their website, you know, this pop-up window says, hey, this webinar is coming up, and it's actually next week. It's free to attend. And the topic is getting started with people analytics. So they're going to talk about people analytics. And I guess this is people analytics using their platform. Sisense is a platform for data analytics. And this is coming up next Wednesday at 9 p.m. And the link is the hyperlink will get you to the landing page where you can register to attend. It's free to attend. So you're going to be able to get this information via the content. You're going to have the hyperlinks that are live. You can just sign up, or you can just Google it and find it and sign up if you're interested in joining. It's going to be on Wednesday, the 9th of September at 10 a.m. Eastern time. And I don't know if anybody knows of any other either business intelligence or analytics, either summits or virtual conferences or any combination of those things. Speak up if you do, and I would encourage you to share the information via the chat window if you can, as well, if you know of anything that's coming up that may be of interest. And I think many of this will be like related to also anything that is related to analytics and artificial intelligence, for example. Oh, I see somebody had just shared that Tableau conference is online, and there's a link here. So let me see if I can actually click through and show you that link. Let's see, is this gonna work? Let me see if I can just cut and paste. It might be that I'm in presentation mode, may not necessarily see that. Let me see if I can get out of it, and oh, here it is. It's okay. You guys should be able to see my browser. And I clicked on this like 3 times, and I'm going to open up multiple tabs. Here we go. So here's the link that was shared. This is the Tableau conference. It's 100% virtual, I believe is what is being reported. And this is the registration page. So that link is actually being shared via the chat. So you guys can actually view that information. Let's see, any other. Let me make sure I can see the chat window. Microsoft Ignite is also coming up, so you guys can probably Google Microsoft Ignite and see what that's all about. I'm just gonna see if I can search for it real quick. I see that there's a landing page, and here is the information. So coming in slowly. So this is the home page. I'm just gonna put this in the chat window so you guys can actually visit this page if you're interested. There's the registration page. It's September 22nd through the 24th. It's a 2-day conference, and you can learn more at this URL, which I actually sent via the chat as well. So thank you for sharing the information. All right, let me go back to and I think as you guys were introducing each other, I wasn't really sure if there's anybody else. I know at least one of you said that you're actively looking for your next opportunity. Anybody looking either actively looking or looking to hire either within your company or you know of jobs that are available here in the area, speak up. I'd like to at least, have a chance to share information if you're aware of any jobs or anyone that is actively looking and you want to at least let it be known that you're looking. All right, if you guys want to share, you can also then share that information via the chat, just in case you're too shy or you're not really wanting to talk in front of everybody. You can share that information via the chat as well. But typically we ask for either any job opportunities that you're aware of, share them, or if you are actively looking, share that information. So at least you can actually let some of the members, and who knows, you might be able to find some information about your next opportunity. Let me move on to the next piece. And we actively, as I mentioned earlier, we actively look for any platform vendors that are willing to come in and sponsor a meetup where they can do a very specific demo or a very specific type of demo or use case or demo of a case study that was recently published. And typically we ask those people to contact us. If you click through this Learn More button, you can actually set up an appointment to talk to myself and figure out if there's a future date that might fit your needs and trying to get you a captive audience to actually be able to do a demo. And by the way, Eric, one of the things that I wanted to offer is if you're willing to do a demo of your beta application, let me know, because we can set that up at a future meetup at some point.
Absolutely, very happy to. Okay.
And let me make sure I start. So at this point, I actually want to get started. I think I'm not really sure if Phillip will be joining. I'm prepared to. The backup plan is to do it on my own if I need to. And somebody else just shared also another summit called the Comeback Champion Summit. And there's the URL that's included, and that's coming up October 13th through the 17th of this year. And information is on the chat, so you guys can actually view that information if you want. As I'm getting started, I'm just gonna take a second to text Phillip and ask him verify if he is joining. And then I can get started. So hopefully he'll get the message and then join in. So at this point, I'd like to ask all of you if you can mute yourselves, be in listen only mode. You can still interact. I'm going to be monitoring the chat window, so you can go ahead and type in comments, or and make sure that there, it's you're able to send your comments and or question for everyone to see. I'll be monitoring the chat as I'm moving along, and then if I don't do it in real time as I'm doing the actual, as I get to a specific place where I'm going to talk about that, I will make sure that I leave that for the Q&A portion of tonight's discussion. So let's go ahead and get started. Hi, my name is Hector Del Castillo, Chief Product Officer at BoldPM, and I'd like to welcome all of you to tonight's meetup. Tonight's topic is State of Business Intelligence and Analytics 2020. And tonight's discussion is going to be a review of the state of business intelligence and analytics platforms. We're going to talk about two landmark reports that were all published this year, 2020. And we're going to talk about and compare and contrast what one set of analysts are saying compared to others. And we're also going to talk about a lot of other information that is available regarding both business intelligence platforms and analytics platforms. So let's go ahead, and tonight's discussion will focus on answering this question. What is the state of business intelligence and analytics market in US in 2020? And we're going to start with at least understanding the current situation talk about trends, opportunities, challenges, talk about key takeaways, and then reinforce that with some real data that has come out from a couple of reports that I was able to find. And be sure to type in your questions. I can get to them as I get to specific sections, or we can leave them for the Q&A portion. The earlier you send in your questions, the better. So there are three key takeaways, and these three key takeaways are from a Sisense report. Sisense is of course a platform vendor, analytics platform vendor. We're going to talk more about them as we talk about what they do. But these three key takeaways are from this report that was published, I want to say June, July of this year. Number one takeaway is that BI and analytics professionals are feeling very optimistic because for them, in their world, even post-COVID-19, it means that they have more work. There's more demand right now than before COVID-19, more demand for work as well as positions being created right now by the players that have been able to capture clients that are interested in deploying and adopting business intelligence and analytics solutions. So it's sort of like good news. And we're going to reinforce this a little more as we talk more in detail about each one of these three key takeaways. The second key takeaway, which I think is kind of surprising because when you compare what one vendor is saying, and we have Gartner on one side, on one corner, and on the other corner is Sisense. They're both published this state of BI and analytics platforms this year. We're going to compare and contrast the two. So right now we're talking about Sisense, purely just what Sisense is doing. And Sisense, amazingly enough, saying is, hey, small businesses are leading the charge. Well, is it true? Or is it just that Sisense is really a platform that is targeting small businesses? Let's discuss this further, and then we can kind of analyze what's happening. Number three, companies are using their data in different ways. And we're going to talk more about what this means. But right now, I think even large companies are trying to figure out how to monetize from the data that they've been collecting for a few decades and figure out how to curate it so that they can actually sell that information to other people that want it. And that's the name of the game right now, is that the early adopters that started adopting BI and analytics solutions earlier, they're now at a point where they're trying to figure out how to create revenue streams from all the information that they have now curated. And now they have done multiple types of analytics, and they're ready to start selling it now to anyone that wants it. So we'll talk about that. So the Sisense report is saying, to reinforce like the first point that I made earlier, and that is the one that is about professionals are feeling optimistic. Here's the first sort of like pillar, saying analytics are increasingly critical during the times of crisis. During times of uncertainty, it seems like most business owners want to have, they don't have a crystal ball, right? Now what they want to do is they want to transfer all these different things into maybe a whole wall of dashboards. Some of those dashboards will contain descriptive analytics. Some of them will contain diagnostic analytics. Some of them will contain predictive analytics, and some of them will be prescriptive and others. We talked about the evolution of analytics, and you see that that's basically been the evolution from earliest to the latest. Today, most organizations are trying to get into prescriptive analytics, which means, based on what's happening right now and based on previous trends that we've observed in the past, what's most likely to happen. And if it's a bad thing, how can we prevent that bad outcome from happening? We don't want to repeat. We don't want, previous history to repeat. Now that we're smarter with all this data that we have, how can we do something to prevent bad risk from actually taking over our business, right? This black cloud hanging over your business. And that's what most people are doing. And so here's what they're saying. Compared to before, they actually polled, I think it was 500 CEOs. These are, some CEOs that they were able to, that responded to Sisense, the actual survey they did for CEOs. 45% saying they're about the same before or after COVID-19. But guess what? A whopping 42% is they're saying that they're looking to do dashboards and analytics more often. They're relying on dashboards, reports, and analytics more often. 42% of respondents saying we're using more analytics now than before. So it's almost like half and half, where the other one is, 8% saying it's much more. So if you add up these two groups, that is 50%. So that's really, half of the audience are saying we're using it a lot more. Some of them are saying we're using it more often than before. And, the rest are saying the same or less, right? So the trend is that analytics adoption is going up, right? Which is good if you are a business analyst, data scientist, or anyone who, gets working on any of these platforms that are adopted. And now you're being asked to create all sorts of different reports and dashboards as more and more enterprise users want to consume this information more often. The second thing is, do you think their company is properly resourced to deliver data-driven insights just in time? And just in time today means in real time. So if you're not set up to do real time, guess what? 52% saying yes, 31% saying no, and so that's a whopping 52% saying yes, we're needing them more often, and we're relying on analytics more often, and we're working on getting them as accurate as possible in real time so we can make decisions before things happen, not after they happen. So they stop being reactive, they start being proactive. And that's what prescriptive and cognitive and augmented analytics are all about. It's about being proactive, saying based on where we're at and based on trends that we've seen for the last few years, sometimes even decades, if something is bad likely to happen next, how can we prevent that bad outcome to happen before it actually occurs? And the third point is investments in BI and analytics. Are they about the same or are they increasing? A whopping 55% are saying we're maintaining our current spend. 10% are saying we're increasing our budgets. So even if, I would say worst case scenario is that you're in this batch right here. It's about the same spend, but the spend has been growing. So it means it hasn't been cut. It's still the same growth as whatever it was before post-COVID-19. Because if you look at the last 5 years, everybody has been bumping up their spend on analytics for the last 5 years. And 10% are saying we need to accelerate. We need to spend more than we've ever been spending on putting together these initiatives that are about adoption of business intelligence and analytics solutions within our company. So that's what this first data point is. Same report, a different perspective is how important are the tools that you're using that are business intelligence or analytics in your daily activity. And here's what we're saying, kind of reflects the same thing, but basically the purple is saying what? Let me see if I can. Invest and grow is more important. The darker the share, it means it's good. So more important, you see that there's a steady of investment, stay afloat, unsure, but stay afloat or invest and grow is our key for most companies. They're becoming very important. The other one is much more important right here. So these sectors here are good as well as these sectors, saying In most organizations, BI tools are becoming either more important or much more important than before COVID-19. Let's talk about the next one. And it's saying that more respondents are optimistic about both the adoption of business intelligence tools and platforms and the outlook on the business. Meaning the more of this that we do and the more accurate reporting that we get, the better our decisions are about where we're going to go and how soon do we need to pivot, or how do we readjust and how often, right? That's what these tools are being used for, not just by executives, but basically everybody who's a manager of critical business functions. They're using these tools across. And the reason we know that, what industries are actually, actually using this, here's a cut of some of these. And of course, some of these are sort of broad, like government, because this includes not just federal agencies, but it also includes government contractors, right? And the yellow says there's a growing interest. The green, new growth opportunities. The yellow is, same as before, right? So these two are good, and not just federal agencies, but also contractors are saying we have a more increased interest in BI and analytics platforms and making sure that we turn them on, make sure that we continue to use them and continue to evolve initiatives behind them. Healthcare is actually also another one, right? Healthcare, new growth opportunities versus refocusing or pivoting your business. I think healthcare insurance, maybe. The payers. Travel, saying there's a growing interest in figuring out how to predict demand and how soon, so that they can start throttling back the right way. And in the rest is industrial, which I believe also includes all the different types of manufacturing. This tends to be too broad, so not really a lot of detail here, except that they're actually using it for product development, right? Being able to manufacture the products that they have to manufacture, no matter what type of manufacturer they are or what industrial sector they're in. So this is basically all the size. Now, the second point, the second key takeaway I talked, that small businesses are leading the charge. This is a Sisense claim. Here's the core business functions that are busy adopting BI and analytics. And what it shows here is that everyone from customer support to operations, finance, R&D, human resources, marketing, product development, and support, and sales. And of course, everybody thinks, well, sales is where it starts, but it actually, marketing and sales, executive management, which I believe in this case, it may be under operations. And then product, and product includes design, development, support. So this is the breakdown as to how reportedly small businesses are adopting BI and analytics tools. So let's talk about now a little more detail, because now we're going to shift over to the Gartner reports. And Gartner produces the Magic Quadrants. We're going to talk about the Magic Quadrants for BI and analytics, and also some newer quadrants that were introduced a few years ago that have to do with handling of data. So let's talk about the difference between business intelligence and analytics, just definitions. So the first thing is business intelligence. This is the definition, and it's actually the same definition that we shared at our last meetup, because we talked about what is business intelligence. And business intelligence is nothing more than software platforms that provide and related services that allow organizations to transform their data into actionable insights, into actionable steps that they can take on figuring out how to maneuver across any of these core business functions that I mentioned earlier. Everything from operations to marketing, sales, and executive management, all those things that are part of any company. And that helps an organization their leaders, the executives and managers, make better informed decisions about strategy versus execution, and then measure both. And allow these leaders to have access to all the data sets that are needed, and they can create reports and visualizations, dashboards that they can use to make those decisions in real time. And that's really, usually will be reports, summaries, dashboards, graphs, any of these things. That's business intelligence. And business intelligence is really more of just understanding what is going on right now, right? What just went on, and do we need to be concerned about what's next, right? That's all that's all BI is all about. Is like what just happened, and just get a good, clear understanding that everything is normal, at least normally running, with nothing unplanned happening that is bad. Business analytics, on the other side, is really more about doing a lot of analysis, from number crunching to taking average and means, and aggregating all the different data sets to be able to make calculations. And all of these operations are needed in order to make decisions about the different business functions that we talked about. And that includes methodologies, that includes the use of artificial intelligence to automate a lot of the data management that needs to happen. Because if you have to do it manually, it's just not possible, right? It's almost like, trying to put out a fire that is being fed by, 60, 80 mile per hour winds, and it's hot and dry outside, right? You just don't have enough resources to be able to curate the data fast enough often. And that's why artificial intelligence is needed to actually do this in a way that can become more real-time or near real-time. And also the ability to frame and reframe business problems, collect the data, analyze it, and then figure out how to create business value out of the information that is being processed. That is business analytics. So one versus the other, and they're different, right? And the way that they're different, it goes back to that evolution of BI and business analytics that we talked about last month. BI is mostly around here, describing what just happened and why did it happen. That's BI. Analytics becomes basically from here onward, it's all analytics, trying to predict what could happen, versus prescriptive, saying if we want a great outcome or a better outcome, how can we make it happen given the current situation, right? That's prescriptive. And then cognitive is understanding ahead of time, being more proactive, saying, why is this continue to happen, and what can we do to either prevent it, or if it's a good outcome, how can we accelerate or multiply whatever is happening so that we can recreate those conditions so that they happen more often, so that it comes out in your favor as an organization. So these are all things that, all of these things, the upper ones that are newer, that's business analytics. The old school, old fashioned stuff, so to speak, is business intelligence, right? So the evolution is over time, they've been going from here to future. Let's talk about one of the quadrants. This quadrant has been around for a long time. I want to say it's been around for at least maybe 15 years or so. This is the quadrant that includes not just BI platforms, but also analytics, the business analytics platforms. And here are all the vendors. The leaders: Microsoft, Tableau, Click, and ThoughtSpot. And very little movement in the last 3 years in here. I think the only exception is ThoughtSpot, which came out of stealth mode about 2 years ago. And immediately upon coming out of stealth mode, they were a leader. So this is BI and analytics platforms. A second rendition, Gartner also put out this year. This was, this one was published in February. This one was published in June, July of this year. Now they're looking at at the customer's perspective. This is the preferred customer's choice. How are all of these tools that are being discussed here, how are they being regarded perceive, this is about perceive customer value of the users of any of these platforms. And what is their, which ones are getting the best reviews, so to speak. Two of them stand out. Sisense, which is the one that published this report that we talked about, and ThoughtSpot, which is the one company that I spoke about is in the leaders. And if you compare Sisense versus ThoughtSpot, you can see that ThoughtSpot is here. Where is Sisense in here? Do you guys see it? Here it is, right here. They're in this quadrant in the lower quadrant, but when it comes to perceive customer value, Sisense is almost about the same as ThoughtSpot. So where one gives us the analyst view, this one gives us the customer's perceived value of the same platforms. And now comparing the two, both of them are published by Gartner. One gives you the customer's perspective of value, and this one is Gartner's perspective, the analyst perspective of who they consider to be the leaders based on where they believe the future of BI and analytics tools are going. And so what you see here is that Sisense is here, ThoughtSpot is here, and Sisense tends to maybe have a little bit higher perceived value than everybody else. Number one, number two, based on customer choice, and the ones that they get repeated reviews. The ones that are here are the one that the next best thing, because they're still getting high ratings. They're just not getting as many from as many customers as these companies do, right? This is what you want to be in this quadrant, because not only are you getting consistently 4.5 star out of 5 reviews by many customers. Here, you're only seeing a few customers saying the same about these platforms, not as many as these two, right? So this really gauges customer perceived value of the same platforms. So this is a newer type of perspective, and I just thought it would be an interesting choice to see, where they're located here versus customer perception of the ones that are getting the best reviews, bar none. And I see some of your. So both, one of the questions that I have is, who do they sample for the survey? So in the Sisense actually sampled CEOs that they have access to, and they're broken up into those industries that I talked about earlier, right? Healthcare, and they're not necessarily very granular, but at least you can get more details by looking at the actual report, because it's actually publicly available. And I will give you a link where you can review more information about, the details as to how they gathered the information and from whom. That's Sisense. These come from Gartner, and Gartner publishes this, which is the analyst point of view of, what are the platforms that are leaders versus everybody else. And they publish this every year, Gartner does. And Gartner just recently started also publishing the customer's choice. So they actually poll customers that they know are users of these platforms, and they ask them to rate the platforms that they have, that they've adopted. And the ones that get the most and the best reviews, they put into these 4 different quadrants. And the best quadrant to be in, the ones that have the highest perceived customer value, are these. And I don't know exactly who, Gartner, but I know Gartner's methodology. They will poll multiple, from executives all the way down to managers and users, business analysts, data scientists, when they're polling into organizations. So you can get more details, because I'm also going to give you the link where you can actually view the details about this report and this report. They're both from Gartner. So hopefully that answers your question.
Interesting to see that Tableau didn't even make it to the top.
Yeah, so actually that's a good point. Last year, Salesforce was acquired by, Salesforce acquired Tableau, right? So today, Salesforce owns Tableau. They're both in market, and one is a leader. And I think right now what they're doing is they're actually creating the synergies in the integration of both companies. They will both remain self-standing subsidiaries of each other, owned by the same holding company. But I think Tableau, this will be a move for Tableau to move closer to Microsoft with their Power BI offering in the way that they actually are merging the capabilities of Salesforce and Tableau. And of course,
sorry.
Go
I
ahead.
think I read somewhere in that report that they were going to put Salesforce and Tableau as a single doc in the future, but because they were still separate for legal reasons, they were. It sounded like this was the last time we would see Tableau as a separate dot. I don't know.
Yeah, usually what happens is that many of these customers that Tableau has, they have long-term, meaning multi-year contracts, and even if Salesforce tries to retire, they won't be able to retire Tableau, right? Because you still have these key accounts that are in love with Tableau, and my guess is that Tableau will remain in market for at least another 3 to 5 years before people migrate to Salesforce or something else. But it's going to take a while for Salesforce to retire Tableau if that's their intent.
I think the Tableau product is always going to stay, but just the specific dot on the Gartner quadrants. But anyway, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So let me move on to the next one. So there are 5 questions, and these 5 questions come from Solutions Review, which actually puts out like buyer's guides and how to choose the right BI and analytics platform when there's many to choose from, as well as, and so these are the 5 key questions if you're looking to choose the right BI or analytics platform. Number 1, most important, how much are you looking to spend? I mentioned earlier that SciSense is reportedly saying that small businesses are accelerating adoption. My guess is SciSense, if you look at the way they're priced compared to everybody else who's part of the same quadrant, the Magic Quadrant, they're actually priced for small businesses, meaning that, it's for companies that have maybe between, 10 employees all the way up to maybe 500 employees. And that's the sweet spot, is they have a pricing plan that actually fits that model. So you don't have to spend that much. You would spend a lot more if you try to turn on like a Microsoft Power BI or Tableau or Salesforce if you're a small business for the same number of users, right? So I think this is key, and especially what I know is small businesses are usually very price sensitive, and that's what I think is happening right now with SciSense. SciSense is a platform that is really targeting small businesses, and they're going to move up over time to the mid-market to larger companies. But right now they're starting from small businesses, and that's where they have the leadership right now. The second piece is, what business problem are you solving and for whom? Who are your stakeholders? Is it operations? Is it executive management? Is it marketing? Is it sales? Because your stakeholders really matter. And often what you find is that not all BI platforms are for all of your core business functions, right? Any organization has maybe somewhere between 9 to 12 core business functions. And usually, in order of priority, there will be marketing and sales and executive management. Those are the top 3, no matter what type of company. And that's where everybody focuses on first. Then everybody else will follow after that, right? So depending on the core business function that are going to be your users, you need to make sure that they have, you understand what budget they have, how it's going to be used, and therefore what capabilities need to be supported by the platform that you're going to adopt. And also upfront understand, what are their expectations? Are they looking to just do predictive, or are they looking to also do prescriptive and cognitive or augmented analytics? Most everybody wants to go from, being just start up to jump to predictive or cognitive, and it's not possible. You have to do a phased approach, but you have to keep the end in mind to make sure that whatever platform you select can evolve over time to go from wherever you start, whether you start in the actual predictive or diagnostic, and then move on to prescriptive and then beyond. Gartner, again, has 3 additional quadrants. And these quadrants have to do with data, how data is managed, how data is integrated, and measuring the quality of your data. So there are 3 new quadrants, and we're going to talk about all 3, and I'm just going to show them, and then we're going to compare all 3, because all 3 are about data. The first one is about data management, and here are all the players, like the same 4 quadrants and all the different players that are now just putting together and selling master data management solutions. These are software platforms that you can adopt as a service that just take in data and start keeping track and curating data automatically. Some of these are visual, some of them are not, and all of this, changes depending on the solution and the provider. Second quadrant that is also newer is called the data integration tools. And here's a different set of companies. You see some common denominators between one and the other, but you also see some different ones. So we're going to talk about that. And the third is the data quality solutions, measuring the quality of your data and make sure that it's high at all times. Because if ever what happens when you have dirty data in your data sets, that's not so good, because no matter how good your analytics platform is, dirty data can cause havoc, because it's the same thing as having errors and omissions in trying to predict the future or trying to predict how to optimize the best outcome based on what you know, and what you know is not necessarily accurate, right? So everybody, before you can actually do predictive the right way, or even cognitive or augmented, you need to increase the quality of your data first. So you can't go to high quality predictive without doing this, right? And so let's look about what is the difference, because we're talking about data. Does anybody know the difference between data management, data integration, and data quality? We're going to define all 3, and we're going to give you the definition that Gartner gives to each one of these terms. And we're going to talk about them in order. Data management. So data management is defined by Gartner as follows. Master data management is a set of technologies that enable business functions that are going to be consuming data sets to make sure that the data is uniform, accurate, that they are able to safeguard it, manage it the right way, keep track of it, make sure they can audit. So say, if they have to trace errors or omissions, they can do that. So they have to do version control of their data sets. And look at the consistency of the semantics. Zip codes can be either 5 digits or 9 digits, right? And what happens when you have a mixture of both? And how do you make sure that that information is consistently displayed across your reports? And all of this, there's different kinds of fields, data fields that have not one, but multiple rendering. And you need to make sure there's consistency in your data structures, and also the allowable types of data fields. Each different field type will have multiple allowable sets, and that needs to be done also in a way that it's automatic, to make sure that you don't think that something is in error when it really is correct, because you might have multiple ways of showing the same information. So this is all really dealing with all the things that may lead to the way that data is being input into a system, that there may be errors and omissions in or different styles depending on the human that is typing in the information, right? And many of these data sets are coming from completely different vendors, and they all have their own specific way of rendering, how you would show like the state, because the state can be two characters, or it can be the actual name of the state, right? For United States. And there's 50 different, states, but also at least different ways of showing that information. And all of that needs to be, consolidated in the right way when you're actually mixing your data before it can be analyzed. So that's data management. Let's look at what data integration means. And data integration is having a discipline that is about the methods, the architecture, the techniques that you use in your architecture, and the tools that you're using that allows the enterprise users to ensure the data, understand what is ingestible data. And ingestible data, very simply, is structured data. It's almost impossible for systems today, the way they are, to ingest unstructured data. And unstructured data just happens, right? Anything that is added to a network, all of that is automatically, by nature, unstructured data. And to take unstructured data in and actually make it structured data, it means that it needs to go through a data integration methodology to transform that unstructured data set into a structured data set that can be ingested. And it may need to be transformed. And often, different data sets that need to go through this ingestion and transformation process need to be combined and then make sure that they're available for your analytics platforms to now start looking at different visualizations and different ways of processing that information. And that doesn't necessarily need to be numbers. It could be just fields that you're collecting from people's names and information and location, all of those things, timestamps, all of that, right? Needs to be combined. It's not necessarily just numerical data. We're talking about data that is alphabetical, alpha data or alphanumeric text data, not just numbers, right? That's what data integration does. It says, is this a text field, or is this a numeric field, or is it a different type of field? And if so, is it decimal? Is it exponential? All of those things are the different things that are part of understanding unstructured data and the way it's presented so that it can be turned into ingestible data. Data quality is a third term, and data quality discusses the actual processes that are used and the technologies that are used to identify and understand what is flawed information, what is good information, and what information needs to be ignored, what information needs to be processed, integrated, so that you can improve, and which information needs to be updated, and which data set overrides the other, right? Not always do you want new data to override old data. Sometimes you might have a combination across fields where old data overrides new data, and whereas for other fields, new data overrides old data, and you have to create that structure across all of your data types that are contained in a data set. That's data quality, and making sure that you have zero errors, zero omissions in the way the data is, and that's how you measure data quality. The highest the quality, the better. And this is a newer field. Data quality is newer because data management was first, data integration was next. Data quality is the new thing, and you need the highest data quality possible in order to get to accurate predictive and cognitive and augmented analytics. So now that we understand those things, let's look at the quadrants. Data management on the left, in the middle is data integration quadrant, and on the right is data quality. All next to each other, all from Gartner, right? And these were all published between May of 2019 to latest was July for the middle one. And the other date is shown also here, June, July. These two are 2020. This is the latest one. It hasn't been refreshed for whatever reason, but this was last published in May of 2019. And this is the master data management. My guess is that Gartner has split this, which is the master data management, into two. And moving forward, they're going to maintain data integration and data quality, and they're no longer going to support this quadrant. Usually this is what they do when they're starting to shift. When you see that something hasn't been updated the current year, is because they're looking to retire this one, and it may not necessarily happen because now this one has now spawned two new ones. One has to do with data integration tools and platforms, and the other one has to do with data quality tools and platforms. So let's look if that's true. In the leaders here, Informatica is here, and then you have TIFCO software. Well, Informatica is here and here, right? It's across all three. So I would say Informatica today is a leader of not just data management, they're a leader of data integration and quality. Anything data. Whereas TIFCO, do you guys see TIFCO on the middle one? I can't make it out. I'm trying to focus, and oh, there. TIFCO is right here. I guess I should put some big. So TIFCO is here, where they're here in the data integration. They're here, and in the data quality, they may not be here. I don't see them here. So they're mostly, so whereas TIFCO is considered a data management, they're really more a leader in data integration, not data quality. And that is the main difference between TIFCO and Informatica. Informatica is a leader, not just in data management, it's also they're a leader in data integration and data quality. TIFCO is only a leader, not a leader, but they're actually a challenger in data management, and they're nowhere when it comes to data quality. They're just not doing much data quality right now. So if you're looking for the best tool, that if you're already translating what this means, right? If you're right now tasked as a business analyst or data scientist or data analyst within your workplace to have the highest, the best quality predictive analytics platform, what this is telling me is you've got to be using Informatica to do the data integration and quality that you need in order to have accurate predictive analytics. That's how I would simplify. Everything else will be just like noise, because if you're loyal to IBM or whatever other brand, IBM is here, and IBM, I believe, is also in the BI and analytics platform with their Watson offering. And if you look, Microsoft is still, where Microsoft is a leader with their Power BI, is a leader in BI and analytics. When it comes to data management, not so good, because they're not leaders and they're not challengers. If they're looking at just data integration, they are here. This is Microsoft here. And if you're looking at data quality, they're not in here. And I'm trying to figure out if they have any data quality. Do you guys see Microsoft in here in this one? I don't.
It's interesting for the perspective on Gartner here. They're leaving out both the huge cloud player, right, the Azure and the AWS. They're not pure software vendors like Informatica, but they have a huge breadth of technology that you can use to operate at scale that I think sometimes Informatica might fall short of.
Yeah, and the other thing is that sometimes what happens is that acquisition happens, right? So on one of these, I believe Looker, if you guys are familiar with Looker, well, guess what? In the last few months, Looker is now Google, because Google acquired Looker. And Looker is one of these tools that ended up in one of these data integration and data quality. And if you want to see better granularity, I thought I had brought in a high resolution image. It appears to be fuzzy. Let me see if I can jump out of my presentation mode and go to the actual website, because I think I have the tabs open. Let me see if I can jump into my browser and I can show you, and maybe we can zoom in to some of these quadrants that I'm showing about. So this is the quadrant for BI, and this is so you see, this is the first one that I showed earlier. The last three that we're talking about right now, this is the choice, and this is the data management, and data management quadrant is here. And Informatica is here, of course. This is TIBCO. IBM is here. SAP is here. This is data management. Data integration is this one. And Informatica is here. IBM is here. SAP is here. Microsoft is here. TIBCO software is here. This is actually a little bit better, it has better resolution here, apparently. And data quality, you see Informatica, IBM, SAP, SAS, and those are the ones that are leading right now in data quality. So I would say that if you look at across all three, if you're really looking for being able to, if you're in the type of company where you have a lot of unstructured data being generated right now, and you need a fast way to curate it so that it's ingestible, it can be transformed, and it can be brought into the highest level of quality, I would say these are the tools that you need to adopt, the ones that have high rating and they're on the leaders in the data integration and the data quality, and that would be Informatica, IBM, SAP. Those are the three, because everybody else is either good on integration and not quality, or vice versa. The three that go across both high in integration and quality are Informatica, IBM, and SAP. That's what this is showing us. That's what I wanted to show, because Gartner doesn't show this, right? This is the kind of stuff that you can only see by just putting them side by side and doing this kind of manual work, because Gartner won't help you. If you're looking at Gartner, it's not just one quadrant, it's multiple quadrants to come up with the right BI and analytics tool, and then the right solution that does the right level of data management, integration, and quality that can then speed up your predictive analytics, if that's what you're doing. So that's in a nutshell what I have. We can go into Q&A at this point. I just want to say that I don't know if you guys have been typing in questions or comments, but here's the COVID-19 portals that we talked about before, and these are hyperlinks to those. Here's for further reading. I mentioned that I was going to give you the hyperlinks where you can actually view all of these reports that are available. These are live hyperlinks, and you have them available from the slides that I'm going to make available to all of you. And we can go in here and do our Q&A. And I promise I will take all the questions, even if you are asking Philip to answer the question. So are there any questions or any thoughts about what I just discussed? Was this useful to you guys?
Yes, I have a question.
Yes, go ahead, Lori.
So it's very interesting to me that only Informatica seems to have all of the data analysis bases covered. Cleaning the data, having good quality data, all these other things that you need to do with the data are necessary. And for some reason, the other tools are not taking a systemic view of this. Any thoughts on that?
Well, it's just the nature of the business. What I'm thinking right now is going to happen, and this is going to happen probably in the next 6 months, between now and the first quarter of 2021. Many of the leaders that are BI and analytics, they're going to actually do the backward integration of any leaders that are right now leaders in data integration and data quality, both. So let's look at what that leaves, because if you follow this analysis, you know who's ripe for acquisition right now by a large BI platform that is, for example, Power BI, Microsoft is behind the curve on data management and data quality, right?
Sure, it's make buy. They're going to go buy it because it's a lot cheaper and faster than trying to develop it.
And if I was Microsoft, I would be trying to cut a deal with Informatica, because Informatica is a clear leader in data management and integration, both, and probably more affordable than trying to acquire the IBM unit that leads that or SAP unit, because all of these, out of the top three that are common to are high on the management and on the integration and quality, Informatica is the only one that may be, and I don't even know what the size of Informatica is, but I know they've been growing pretty quickly. They've been scaling because they've been on, I think, a 30 to 50% growth rate for the last 3 years. That's how they've scaled, by just being the best, the leader in data integration and data quality.
Here's another thing too. Excuse me if I interrupted. The two Gartner graphs that you showed previously, where one was the consumer preferences, and it was quite different from Gartner's assessment.
That's my other aha moment, is that whatever Gartner is saying is not what, and I'm saying, okay, what is causing this disconnect between what the analysts are saying? And I think that right now is that, if you know the Gartner model, it's a pay to play, right?
Yeah.
Because this is not about market share, right? Being in the leader quadrant it's not about your market share or how profitable your business is. None of that, right? Has nothing to do with how many customers you have. It's just about, how much did you pay Gartner to put you on a specific quadrant. Right?
Yeah, and it's bragging rights. I get that. Maybe it gets you a few customers. I'm not sure exactly what it buys you. It's very controversial, but my point is, I would love to see the plots where they have the consumer preference versus this, because these show what Gartner considers to be the market leaders, but are they really?
Yes, I mean, it's because I'm going of the four that are here, right? The four leaders. Is anybody here? And the only one that is here that is in the leader is ThoughtSpot, and ThoughtSpot is new. They just got on the quadrant, and they ended up here from the very beginning once they got out of stealth mode, and that was 2 years ago. Actually, ThoughtSpot was one of the companies that they came and did a demo for us. I want to say now it's 2.5 years ago. Oh. They were just out of stealth mode when they came and did a demo. I was really impressed with them, and a year later, they end up on this quadrant, just coming out of stealth mode, and they remain so. And now they're also getting great reviews for customers. And if you want to say who's in growth mode, it's not what the analysts say; it's what the customers are saying, right?
Amen.
Because these two, I can guarantee you what's happening right now. Sisense is probably having the highest growth rate, just like ThoughtSpot, compared to anybody else who's anywhere in here. Doesn't matter where you are. Yeah. These two companies are the ones that are experiencing the highest adoption, because their customers are getting other customers like them to actually adopt either Sisense or ThoughtSpot. And what I do know about Sisense is that Sisense is focused on small businesses. ThoughtSpot is not. ThoughtSpot, their customers are Walmart and a few others like Walmart. They're actually adopters of ThoughtSpot. They're not for the small or mid-market companies. ThoughtSpot is expensive.
Like ThoughtSpot and Sisense, I see them more as a departmental BI platforms. From a enterprise-wise, at least just my experience, they don't have this, call it the pricing structure or the scale compared to some of the other vendors out there, maybe a little older.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, you have a great point. One of the research that we found, and we actually did the Dresner report earlier this year, and we went over that. And the outcome of that is that they actually surveyed. It was a global survey, and it's actually published work. I would refer you back to one of our earlier meetups this year that we presented that. And basically their report is saying that regardless of the type of company you're in and your size of the company, whether you're, it doesn't matter whether you're a small business or a large company, like a Fortune 500 company, you're stuck because there's no one platform. There's no one BI and analytics platform today that satisfies everything that you need to do for your business. So most companies today, for each and every core business function, they have not one, but on the average, I think it's like 2 to 3 platforms rendering reports, dashboards, and different visualizations for just that one function. And every organization has somewhere between 9 to maybe 12 core business functions for which they're doing some sort of analytics implementation. And so the bottom line is that there's no one solution for everybody or for your entire business, no matter what type of business you are, even if you're a small business. And so you're stuck with adopting not one, but on the average, somewhere between 2, sometimes 4, up to 4 platforms to be able to see all of your core business functions, so that you have full visibility in real time. And
Hi, Hector. This is Damien. I think, first of all, I really appreciate the presentation and how this was laid out. It's very helpful for me. So as I do some consulting on the side, and one of the things that we're looking for, particularly for this contract manufacturer, is what BI platform to use. And I think my biggest disconnect might be how Looker was presented versus Power BI and Tableau. And by that I mean, I've used all 3 platforms, but the feedback I got from my teams was that they preferred Looker over Power BI and Tableau. For me, Power BI was clunky, and Tableau was more on just the visual dashboard side. But everyone loved Looker because you could do not only the visualization, but it gave team members the ability to go in and dig in for their lists. And I was very direct-to-consumer heavy. Mm-hmm. And so that's a part I was just a little perplexed by in terms of what was being presented. It was presented well, but it didn't mesh with my real-time experience with Clorox and supplements. So thoughts on that?
Yeah, so let me ask you this. When you were using Looker, what function were you in within the organization? Were you doing financial analysis or something else?
Yes, we were basically analyzing customer behavior. So first of all, how many orders were we getting, so on and so forth, but then how many first-time buyers did we have? How many second-time buyers did we have? What were they purchasing? When we sent out a marketing list, what was the response rate, and who were they? What were the what's the word I'm looking for? What was the data behind them? Because then the marketers would use that to produce their next list.
Got it. Okay, perfect. So you answered a question. You're actually doing buyer behavior, right? For any of the Clorox products, for products, and look at buyer behavior. That's fine. So I would say that this is exactly what I was talking about, is that most companies today, as they're trying to explore different things that they need to actually take in order to understand, really understand demand. Not all of these tools will be, will be the right fit, right? So Gartner's perspective, or even some other analyst perspective of, what is the best platform, is not necessarily the right thing for you, depending on your application and the use cases. So you really have to look down at the details as to how exactly, it goes back to those 5 questions that I presented earlier. What is your budget? Who are the users? And what type of information are you trying, and what are the objectives of the outcome of that research that you're collecting? What are you gonna do with that, right? So all of that is relevant. Those 5 questions that are in this conversation, I think are very relevant, because you will find out this gives you clarity. And often it's so confusing because there's so many vendors and everybody's wanting to market and do a demo. And, now you have all the different account managers pounding at your door once they found out that you're in the market shopping for a new platform for whatever it is that you're doing. And they will just try to sell you, even if it's the wrong platform for that particular use case that you have in mind.
Well,
so
I would say, I think you make an excellent point, and I appreciate that. So let me ask you candidly, when you look at Looker, Power BI, and Tableau, because granted, I'm coming from a biased perspective, do you feel that maybe if I came from another perspective or business environment, that maybe one could rank higher than another? And I'm just biased. Yeah,
so I would say definitely true. You want to start looking at, this, because all of this is how price sensitive are you in whatever application? Who are the enterprise users that are going to be consuming the information, and what type of capabilities you value the most? Sure. What I heard is that many of these people that you were working with are not necessarily, the best of doing like actual data analysis, but they are the ones that may be saying, okay, let's divide the segments of customers into multiple segments, and we want to start tracking everything by segment. And you got to come up with at least, that 5 or 10 things that you want the tool to do with 0 coding, right?
And again, I agree with all that. My direct question to you would be, if given your 5 questions, do you think that between Looker, Power BI, and Tableau, based upon answers to those 5 questions, you could see Power BI, for example, outrank Looker versus Tableau, and then with another set of answers, the opposite happen?
Yes.
Okay.
Unfortunately, yes. And this is why you need to be very targeted, very focused on, before you actually adopt something, make sure that you get, a full, typically what I do is, even if they offer you like a 14-day trial, 30-day trial, I will usually say, look, I'm doing my research and I want to turn on 3 tools and I want to use them all for extended trials. And I'm not going to make a decision until I get at least a 1 iteration across everything that I need to do to figure out which is the best tool to use.
Right now, and I agree, and I'll stop here. But I guess the last, I guess what I was looking for is, would you say, you know what, throw out Power BI or throw out Looker? It'll always be 2 of the 3. Clearly, that's not your answer, and that's probably correct. Again, based upon the 5 answers to the questions you put forward, and so
yeah.
that's
and
very helpful.
Right now, it's like you've got to realize that you can't just narrow it down to one vendor, because you got to start really testing, are you really the best fit based for our capabilities, our processes, and the use cases and applications that we have, and our expectations. And when you say expectations, and not just you as a user, but the organization's expectations, and there are everyone from the actual person that makes a buy decision, who may not even be a user, to the people that are going to influence that decision, and then the actual users. You have a range within your organization that needs to have a sandlot set up to try all of these tools, and then over time, the best one will float up, but you need to have an extended trial in that case.
Right. All right. Great. Really appreciate the intuitive answers. Thank you.
Yes. No, you're welcome. And that's a great question, by the way. I think I would recommend is that I think I have it in here in my further resources, but Solutions Review, they actually have great buyer's guides for all of these areas, right? Whether you're looking for an analytics platform or data management platform or data integration or data quality, they have these buyer's guides that are available. They're free. All you have to do is look them up, and actually I think they're one of my references in the in this slide of further reading, yeah, solutions reviews here. And they actually will always give feedback based on whatever Gartner has come up with, because they actually are looking really more at the customer's perception, and they're keeping the pulse on the users of all of these tools, and they're actually publishing the customer's perspective, what they're saying about all of these tools that are out there that Gartner is analyzing and reviewing.
This is huge. Thank you so much.
Sure, you're welcome. So are there any other questions or comments? Anyone else? Let me see if I can look at the chat.
I just feel from a Gartner standpoint, they kind of left out all the cloud players. I mean, they're purely focused on software vendors and maybe a little bit biased towards pure player vendors. And because a lot of companies, when we go out and look for things, we start with the cloud and what integrates well with the cloud we have and what solution we have in the cloud that can serve this versus buying a software and deploy it, whether on the cloud or on the vendor's own cloud. And usually the vendor's own cloud sits on either AWS or Azure anyway.
Yeah, and right now what's happening is that not only is the acceleration of analytics accelerating, but also most companies that were sort of like not moving to the cloud are now accelerating, moving everything from, and many of them are doing things like hybrid cloud or on-prem, off-prem type of stuff. They're also moving everything from something where they have their own management, direct control of the servers, to they're moving it to the cloud, and sometimes it's on-prem or off-prem. It's still they're actually leasing all of those servers and infrastructure and middleware from one or two cloud providers. And so the challenge is, if you look at all the different interfaces that these data management and data quality tools have to support, to be viable, they have to support at least 10 or more of these players that are all from Azure to Google Cloud Services to AWS, and I mean it's a mixture, and that makes it such a challenge to do to be a more complete data integration, data quality tool that can work across all these different cloud environments, and and a mixture of on-prem, off-prem, hybrid, all those things they have to support. So I think I actually have, all your comments. Anybody else that, because I don't see any more comments or questions. And I just want to make sure that you guys are okay. And I think it's already, anyway, it's a little bit after our closing time. So I'd like to just go ahead and wrap up. So here's our contact information. You guys are welcome to come back and join us again next month. We have the dates. We'll be meeting in October, first Thursday of October. And in the meantime, if you have any comments or questions, you can actually type them into on the comments section of the meetup, or you can also just contact me via email, connect with me on LinkedIn. This is my the short URL to my LinkedIn profile. You can also follow me on Twitter, and here is Phillip's information. I don't know what happened, but he was unable to join us today. Hopefully he'll be able to join us next month. That's his email. This is his company's website, and this is his Twitter profile. So you can actually follow him on Twitter as well. So with that, I'd like to wrap up and wish everyone a great and a wonderful and safe Labor Day weekend, and enjoy. I don't know if you guys are doing anything or if you're just staying home and relaxing, but whatever it is, enjoy and stay safe. And thank you so much.
This was great. Thank you so much.
All right. Take care.